I used to work as a park ranger in the Great Smoky Mountains, stationed in one of the most remote corners of Tennessee. If you've never been there, the Smokies are beautiful, 500,000 acres of misty forests, winding mountain roads and towering peaks that look like they stretch forever. I had always loved the early mornings, driving up to the Clingman's Dome overlook to watch the sunrise, the way the first rays of sunlight would illuminate the endless waves of mountains. And the thunderstorms, oh, those were something else entirely. I'd drive up to the same spot just to see lightning illuminate the valleys below. But for all its beauty, this place has a way of swallowing you whole. It doesn't let you forget how small you are, how vulnerable. Most visitors don't experience that side of the park. They come during the day, stick to the trails, and leave before the sun sets. They don't see what happens after the gates close, when the forest becomes an entirely different world, when the silence grows heavy and the shadows seem alive. Being a park ranger gave me plenty of time alone, which I liked. I didn't have anyone breathing down my neck, and my responsibilities were clear patrol the roads, keep an eye out for trouble, and assist lost hikers. But it also meant I was alone when things went wrong. And let me tell you, things go wrong in a place like this. There's just too much land to cover, too many places where the forest feels like it's closing in, like it's hiding secrets. I learned early on that the Smokies can be dangerous in ways most people don't expect. And I'll never forget the night I found out why the park closes after dark. It was winter, though snow wasn't common in this part of Tennessee. That night, though, it came fast and heavy, like the mountains had decided to bury the world in white. I was out on a late patrol, driving one of the old Ranger trucks with its dull yellow headlights and an AM radio that only played static-filled country music. The darkness was absolute, the kind that seems to absorb light and sound, leaving you feeling like you're the last person on Earth. The snow began as a light flurry but quickly turned into a full-blown storm, covering the road in minutes. Visibility dropped to near zero and I had to slow to a crawl. There was no pulling over. If I stopped, the truck could get buried, and I wasn't keen on spending the night trapped in the middle of nowhere. The road twisted and turned as it climbed higher into the mountains, the guardrails barely visible through the swirling snow. I remember gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles ached, my eyes straining to make out the faintest sign of the road ahead. Then, out of nowhere, a deer appeared. It stepped onto the road as casually as if it were a summer day, its large eyes reflecting the dim glow of my headlights. I slammed on the brakes, the truck skidding slightly before coming to a stop. The deer glanced at me, unimpressed, then continued its leisurely stroll across the road. "You're welcome," I muttered, my voice sounding hollow in the confined space of the cab. The deer disappeared into the trees, and I was left with nothing but the sound of the snow and the hum of the truck's engine. That's when I noticed something strange. The snow was falling harder now, thick flakes piling up on the windshield faster than the wipers could clear them. And yet, for a brief moment, I thought I saw something move at the edge of my headlights. It was just a flicker, a shadow that didn't belong, but it was enough to send a shiver down my spine. I told myself it was nothing, just the snow playing tricks on my tired mind, and kept driving, but the unease didn't leave me. If anything, it grew stronger, like a weight pressing on my chest. I rounded a sharp curve and the truck hit a patch of ice. The tires lost traction, and for a heart-stopping moment I thought I was going to slide right off the road. I managed to regain control, but the truck was now dangerously close to the guardrail. My pulse was racing and I could feel sweat trickling down my back despite the freezing temperature. That's when I felt the thud. It wasn't a hard impact, more like I'd hit something solid but not immovable. I slammed on the brakes, the truck skidding to a halt, and turned off the engine. The silence that followed was deafening, broken only by the muffled hiss of the falling snow. My first thought was that I'd hit another deer, maybe a larger one this time. I grabbed my flashlight and stepped out into the storm, the cold biting through my jacket instantly. The snow was coming down even harder now, the wind whipping it into my face. I made my way to the front of the truck, my boots crunching on the freshly fallen snow. The bumper was dented, and there were tufts of dark fur caught in the metal. Blood speckled the snow in front of the truck, leading off into the trees. "Great," I muttered. "Just great." The last thing I wanted to do was track a wounded animal in the middle of a snowstorm, but I couldn't just leave it. If it was suffering, I needed to put it out of its misery. That's what rangers do. So I grabbed my coat, my keys, and a flare gun from the truck and followed the trail. The tracks were strange. At first, they looked like what you'd expect from a large animal-deep impressions in the snow, spaced far apart. But as I followed them, I realized something was off. The tracks were too uniform, too precise, like whatever had made them was walking on 2 legs instead of 4. I stopped, shining my flashlight on the ground, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. The blood trail was still fresh, bright against the pure white snow. Whatever I'd hit, it was big, and it was hurt. I kept walking, the trees closing in around me, their bare branches forming skeletal shapes against the dark sky. The wind howled through the forest, drowning out the sound of my footsteps. Then I heard it, a low, guttural growl that seemed to vibrate in my chest. My flashlight beam trembled as I swung it toward the sound, the light cutting through the snow to reveal nothing, just trees and shadows. But I knew I wasn't alone. I took another step forward, and that's when I saw them, 2 glowing red eyes staring at me from behind a tree. They were too high off the ground to belong to any normal animal, at least 8 feet up, and they seemed to burn with an unnatural intensity. My breath caught in my throat as I raised the flashlight higher, trying to get a better look. The eyes blinked once, slowly, and then whatever was behind them began to move. It stepped out from behind the tree, and I felt my knees go weak. It was massive, covered in matted fur that looked black in the dim light. Its head was canine, with a long snout and jagged teeth that gleamed when it opened its mouth to snarl. But it wasn't the face of a dog, it was wrong, distorted, like something out of a nightmare, and it was walking on 2 legs. I don't know what possessed me to do it, but I pulled out my phone and took a picture. The flash illuminated the creature for a split second, and I thought I saw it flinch, but then it growled, a deep, bone-shaking sound that sent me running. I didn't even think, I just turned and bolted, my boots slipping on the snow as I fought to stay upright. I could hear it behind me, the heavy thud of its footsteps getting closer. My truck wasn't far, but in that moment it felt like a mile away. I glanced over my shoulder and immediately regretted it. The creature was bounding after me, its glowing eyes locked on mine. It was faster than anything that size had a right to be, and I knew I wasn't going to make it. Desperation took over, and I did the only thing I could think of. I dove under the truck. I hit the ground hard as I dove under the truck, the icy snow seeping into my clothes almost instantly. My flashlight clattered beside me, its beam casting wild, erratic shadows across the underside of the vehicle. My breath came in ragged gasps, forming clouds that dissipated almost as quickly as they appeared. I could hear the creature now, its heavy, guttural growls vibrating through the air, each one a little closer than the last. For a moment, I dared to hope that it might hesitate, that the truck would provide some kind of sanctuary, but then the entire frame of the vehicle shifted violently as it slammed into the side of the truck. I could hear the metal groan in protest, the suspension creaking as though the beast were testing its strength. I tried to crawl further under the truck, hugging the frozen ground as tightly as I could, but the thing was relentless. Its massive snout shoved itself beneath the undercarriage, snapping at the air just inches from my boots. Its breath hit me like a wall hot and putrid, thick with the smell of copper and decay. I scrambled backward, dragging myself toward the rear of the truck, but the beast was too fast. It darted to the other side, its claws raking the snow as it tried to grab me. It was like playing a nightmarish game of cat and mouse, except this cat was the size of a bear and had glowing red eyes that burned with an almost human intelligence. For what felt like hours, it circled the truck, its snout and claws appearing in one spot only to vanish and reappear somewhere else. The truck groaned again as the creature climbed on top of it, its weight pressing down until I could feel the entire vehicle sink slightly into the snow. From my position beneath the truck, I could see the monstrous shadow it cast against the swirling white. My heart was pounding so loudly in my chest that I thought for sure it would hear me. I didn't dare move, didn't even breathe. But then the snow began to pile up around me, rising steadily toward the undercarriage. If I didn't do something soon, I'd be completely buried, and the truck would no longer be a barrier. I had to act. My mind raced as I formulated a plan, a stupid, desperate plan, but the only one I had. Slowly, I reached for the flashlight that had landed a few feet away. The beam was still on, casting just enough light to make the snow glow faintly. My fingers brushed the cold metal, and I had to fight the urge to just grab it and run. Instead, I turned my head toward the rear of the truck and clicked the flashlight's beam toward the guardrail, angling it so that it pointed directly into the woods beyond. The light danced against the snow, creating erratic patterns that I hoped would catch the creature's attention. For a few agonizing seconds, nothing happened. Then, the truck shifted again as the beast leapt off it and onto the ground, landing with a thud that shook the earth. I could hear it sniffing, growling low in its throat as it moved toward the beam of light. My chest tightened as I realized how risky this was. If the creature figured out that the flashlight wasn't attached to me, I'd be dead in seconds. But luck or desperation was on my side. The beast lumbered toward the guardrail, its massive frame blocking out the flashlight's glow as it investigated the source. I used the momentary distraction to drag myself out from under the truck, my limbs trembling with adrenaline and exhaustion. Snow clung to my clothes, soaking me to the bone, but I didn't care. My only focus was on getting inside the truck before the creature realized I was gone. I stumbled to my feet, my legs nearly giving out beneath me, and yanked at the driver's side door. Locked. Of course it was locked. My fingers fumbled with the keys, shaking so badly that I dropped them into the snow. "Come on," I hissed through gritted teeth, scrabbling through the icy powder until my hand closed around the cold metal. I could hear the creature behind me now, snarling in frustration as it realized it had been tricked. My hands were numb as I jammed the key into the lock, twisting it just as the growls grew louder. The door swung open and I threw myself inside, slamming it shut and locking it in one frantic motion. The engine roared to life as I twisted the key in the ignition, the truck shuddering as it came back to life. I jammed the gear shift into reverse and hit the gas, the tires spinning uselessly in the deep snow for a moment before finally catching. The truck lurched backwards, sliding slightly before I managed to straighten it out. My breath came in shallow gasps as I glanced in the rearview mirror, half expecting to see those glowing eyes staring back at me, but the creature was nowhere to be seen. I didn't dare feel relieved. Not yet. Navigating the snow-covered road was a nightmare. The white blanket had erased any trace of the pavement, leaving me to guess where the edges were based on the gaps between the trees. Every turn felt like a gamble, every patch of ice a potential death sentence. I kept the speed as low as I dared, the truck creeping along at a pace that felt agonizingly slow. The windshield wipers were barely keeping up with the falling snow, and the defroster had decided to give up entirely, leaving the glass fogged over. I wiped at it with one hand, my other gripping the wheel so tightly that my knuckles turned white. Then I saw them, red eyes glowing in the darkness, just visible in the rearview mirror. My stomach dropped as I realized the creature was following me, its massive form bounding through the snow with an unnatural grace. I pressed down on the accelerator, the truck fishtailing slightly as it gained speed, but the road was treacherous, and I couldn't go too fast without risking a slide into the trees or worse, over the edge of the mountain. I glanced back again. The eyes were closer now, brighter, their glow cutting through the storm like twin beacons of malice. I knew I couldn't outrun it, not in these conditions. The next few miles were a blur of terror and exhaustion. The creature stayed with me the whole way, sometimes falling back, sometimes closing the gap until I thought for sure it would lunge at the truck. I could feel its presence even when I couldn't see it, an oppressive weight that pressed down on me like a physical force. Every turn in the road felt like a countdown to disaster, every straightaway an opportunity for the beast to gain ground. And then, just when I thought things couldn't get any worse, it did. The creature slammed into the side of the truck with a force that nearly sent me off the road. The impact was deafening, the metal groaning as the door caved inward. I screamed, my voice raw and panicked, as the truck swerved wildly. I fought to keep it on the road, my hands slipping on the wheel as the tires skidded across the icy surface. Another impact, this one harder, sent the truck sliding toward the guardrail. The passenger window shattered, glass spraying across the cab as the creature's snout forced its way inside. I could see its teeth now, jagged and yellow, snapping just inches from my face. Instinct took over, and I slammed on the brakes. The truck jerked to a stop, and the beast was thrown forward, landing in a heap on the snow-covered road. For a moment it didn't move, and I hoped that I'd finally managed to escape. But then it stood, shaking itself off like a dog emerging from water, and turned those glowing red eyes on me once more. I knew I didn't have much time. I hit the gas, the truck lurching forward as I steered around the creature. I didn't look back this time. I couldn't. My only thought was to make it to the station, to safety, before the beast caught up to me again. The truck roared to life once more, its battered engine whining in protest as I pushed it harder than it had ever been pushed before. My hands trembled on the wheel, and every nerve in my body screamed at me to keep going, not to stop, not even for a second. I knew the beast wasn't far behind. I didn't need to glance in the rearview mirror to confirm it. I could feel its presence, a predatory pressure that weighed down on me like a physical force. The truck rattled and groaned as it sped down the snow-covered road, its tires slipping and sliding on the icy surface. I knew I was barely holding it together, that one wrong move could send me careening off the edge into the abyss below. But I didn't have a choice. If I stopped, I was dead. The creature caught up with me in an instant. One moment, I was alone, and the next, the entire truck shuddered as it slammed into the rear bumper. The impact sent me lurching forward, the seatbelt digging painfully into my chest as I fought to regain control. The truck swerved dangerously close to the edge of the road, the guardrail just inches from the tires. I gritted my teeth and yanked the wheel to the left, straightening out just in time to avoid disaster. But the beast wasn't done. Another impact rocked the vehicle, this time from the side. I could hear the grinding of metal on metal as the door buckled inward, the force of the blow nearly tipping the truck onto two wheels. It slammed into the vehicle again, and this time the passenger side window shattered completely. Shards of glass sprayed across the cab, and I ducked instinctively as its massive snout pushed through the opening. Its teeth snapped inches from my face, the jagged edges glinting in the dim light as its rancid breath filled the cab. I could feel the heat radiating off its body, a searing wave of malevolence that made my skin crawl. With no other options, I slammed on the brakes. The tires screeched against the icy road, and the truck skidded to a halt, sliding sideways as the beast was thrown forward. It tumbled across the snow like a rag doll, limbs flailing as it rolled to a stop several yards ahead. For a moment it didn't move, and I allowed myself a flicker of hope. Maybe I'd finally managed to shake it. Maybe this nightmare was over. But then it stirred, rising to its feet with a low, guttural growl that sent chills down my spine. I swerved to the left, trying to put some distance between us, but the creature slammed into the truck again, nearly sending me off the road. The tires skidded on the icy surface, and I fought to regain control as the guardrail loomed closer. The beast lunged at the window, its claws raking against the glass as it tried to force its way inside. I could see its teeth now, glinting like daggers as it snapped at me, the sound of its snarls drowning out the roar of the engine. In a moment of desperation, I yanked the wheel to the right, slamming the truck into the creature with all the force I could muster. The impact sent it sprawling, and I sped away, the engine roaring as I pushed it to its limits. My heart was pounding in my chest, my hands slick with sweat as I gripped the wheel. I didn't dare slow down, not even for a second. The station came into view like a beacon of hope, its lights cutting through the darkness like a lifeline. I could see the faint outline of the building through the snow, the warm glow of the windows promising safety and salvation. I was so close, so achingly close, but the beast wasn't finished with me yet. It appeared in the rearview mirror once more, its massive form bounding through the snow with terrifying speed. I could see the blood on its fur now, the result of our earlier collisions, but it didn't seem to slow it down. If anything, it seemed angrier, more determined to end this chase once and for all. The truck shuddered as the beast slammed into it again, this time from the rear. The force of the impact sent me lurching forward, and I barely managed to keep the vehicle on the road. The station was just ahead, but the creature was closing the gap with every passing second. I could feel its presence behind me, the weight of its malice pressing down on me like a physical force. With one final burst of speed, I made it to the station. I skidded into the parking lot, the tires crunching against the snow as I threw the truck into park. I didn't even bother turning off the engine. I flung the door open and stumbled out, my legs trembling beneath me as I made a mad dash for the door. The creature let out a roar behind me, a sound that shook me to my core, but I didn't look back. I couldn't. I reached the door just as the beast closed the distance, its snarls echoing in my ears as I fumbled with the keys. My hands were shaking so badly that I could barely get the key into the lock, but somehow I managed it. The door swung open, and I threw myself inside, slamming it shut and locking it in one frantic motion. I collapsed against the door, my chest heaving as I struggled to catch my breath. Outside, I could hear the creature clawing at the wood, its growls muffled but still terrifying. I didn't know how long the door would hold, but for now, I was safe. I didn't sleep that night. How could I? Every creak of the building, every gust of wind sent my heart racing. I sat in the corner of the station, my back against the wall, clutching the rifle I'd found in the supply closet. The beast didn't come back, or if it did, it kept its distance. But I knew it wasn't over. It was still out there, waiting, watching. Even now, weeks later, I can't shake the feeling that it's still hunting me. Every time I close my eyes, I see those red eyes staring back at me. Every time I step outside, I feel its presence, lurking just beyond the edge of the trees. I don't know what it was or where it came from, but I do know one thing. It's not done with me yet. And one day, it's going to come back.